Welcome everyone to this week's episode, and today I'm joined by a good friend and someone who's helped me out massively, particularly in the last 12 months, Trav White from Neighbourhood. Now you might have seen our branding has changed significantly in the last 12 months and up the level from me being a dodgy a person who's good at insurance that was working in Canva to what it looks like now, and most of that's to do with Trav and the team at Neighbourhood have helped me out in a massive way. And just by way of intro, I first met Trav about 12 months ago after I'd just signed up for HubSpot, and I was overwhelmed by how big of a beast it was. And I think I flicked a chat message to Trav, and I'll let him tell you a little bit about the first meeting we had. But it's safe to say that from the very first moment we met, it was really nice to have a connection. And we've actually never met in person. We threatened to do it once, and we got real close. But I'll bring Trav in. But mate, welcome. Thank you for doing this.
I feel like I'm on Sunrise right now.
I know.
Yes.
We're gonna cross to Trav in that Brisbane office.
No,
do you want to?
Yeah. I think that the first we did meet was actually my cousin and best mate Chris. I was at his wedding. I was actually at the altar, waiting for him to come out, and he was sort of taking a long time. And our live chat, I think, was hooked up to my phone, and I've got this like little thing in my head that I have to respond within sort of like a minute with if anyone gets in touch with us. And so I was at the altar, and I just started chatting away with you, and you were pretty cool. And I think I just gave you a quick call while I was at the altar, just going, "Hey mate, how are you?" And you're like, "Nah, go back to the altar. I'll talk to you later." I'm like, "No, I'm still waiting. We can chat anyway." And we sort of chatted, I think, for about 5 minutes. So I said, "Oh, he's coming out. I got to go." So, yeah,
It was and
that's
I think from
that's
then,
how we met.
and I guess it's difficult because I mean when you meet someone on the internet, and I think we're both in that space where we do get people come to us for the first time, and like let's be honest, there's a lot of people out there that you probably shouldn't be talking to on the internet. And from the moment that we did that, it was the start of something that I felt that was like, and what you guys have really helped me do a lot is be able to be personal at scale. And whilst, like I mentioned, we've never met. We're meant to do Brisbane visit right before COVID came, and I actually had to quit the flights right before we left and went up. But it's been really good to be able to do this.
We just send beers to each other now. So instead of having beers in person, we just send beers to each other.
Not quite. You send them to my neighbours, mate, if you recall. So, Trav, you kindly sent a few beers down to the wrong house number and let me on a wild goose chase. So your kind gestures turn. But no, mate, you're right. But so I guess what for me I was hoping to get out of today was, I mean, you're big in the digital space. You guys have got an amazing team in there, and like I said, been really personal at scale. I know that there's so much more to what you guys do than that, but do you want to just share a little bit about what you guys are working on, how it started, where you've got to now, and yeah, just let people know who might not know you as well as I do.
Yeah. So where do you start? I don't know. It's a big story. I think originally, like, I started in sales, and I kind of just was a kind of a rep, and I love doing sales, and sales for me is kind of quite enjoyable. A lot of people don't enjoy doing sales. I love it. I really, really enjoy doing it. And I kind of wanted a bit of a challenge to start my own business, and then kind of took the leap of faith. Sort of fast forward a little bit, we kind of got to a point where I started an agency, and I guess for me it was to have a bit more of a sales orientated marketing skew on things. Like, there should be a purpose why we're doing things, and it should have a commercial outcome ultimately. So anyway, I started looking for CRMs, like this was 5.5 years ago, and sort of did my audit, broke down the pros and cons of like every platform. And I think that we ended up sort of landing on HubSpot, and we sort of signed up doing HubSpot. Gradually, it just sort of started to become a bit addictive, because you can't, I think in my eyes, you can't necessarily like clock digital in any way. There's always going to be problems, and you can always better yourself in every way, shape or form. So we just started for, I think it was 2 years straight, started educating ourselves on best practices, doing as much learning as possible to not only get ourselves real world experience, but also what is the best way to do things. And, there's heaps of people out there that will tell you, this is the best way to do, this is the but ultimately, at the end of the day, you need to be human in how you communicate with people. Surely we can get the technical side all set up for you, but ultimately, people are going to respond a little bit more when you're human. So I think that that was the big thing for me. And fast forward to where we are today, we're Australia's #1 diamond partner in APAC, which is really cool. And we get to meet really cool people doing some really cool stuff and just help people do things a little bit easier and report on that as well. So hopefully that was a little glimpse into what we do.
Yeah, I think, for those people that might have been down that CRM rabbit hole, it's it's a time suck. And I think probably something that you and I do a lot more than others, and possibly, there'd be other people in the same boat. We're always looking for things that get better. And I think the reason that HubSpot stuck with me so much is that it solved that, or it scratched that itch of constantly wanting to look for the next thing, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like what you said, just committing to something and trying to get the most out of it, as opposed to thinking that there's a silver bullet that's going to fix every problem. You're just going to have to accept that there's some limitations to how things work and tweak it around the edges a bit.
I think people almost kind of get stuck on the execution, where I think through the time of meeting so many different people, you kind of really sort of step back and sort of look at the strategy on what you're trying to execute. Everyone says, oh, we need this platform, we need to do this, or we need to be in this space. Whenever we sort of start with people, we always sort of come back to that buyer persona, like who are we specifically talking to? What are their needs? What are their objectives? What are ultimately their goals? And what can we do to attract ourselves to be in front of those people, ultimately to help them solve their goals? And I think I think something that we've done, and I definitely think that you've done at True Pride, is that you've stopped selling and turned more into helping rather than selling. Because the more people you can help, essentially that sale will come naturally as well. And for the people that you don't sell, they'll essentially fall in love with your brand and who you are and talk to other people. So just moving from selling to helping has kind of been a major step away from, the tech that we use to what tech do we need to execute ultimately to help people. Yeah.
And I guess on that point, I think we mentioned before, like people find you, they find people like I found you. The challenge that I had when I've talked to other people before was not really knowing whether I was in the right place. When people are looking online for anything, whether it be an agency to help them, I know you've done like e-commerce website building courses and those sorts of things. Like, what do you use, or how do you suggest people narrow down or reference check the people they're talking to make sure they're legit? Because so much of that stuff can be manipulated and fake these days. Like, do you have any pointers on that one at all?
Yeah. Ultimately, there is you go down the regular routes of Google. I think that you can't screw with that at all. Like and you can't delete them. Once that's there, it's there. I think that's but if you can't necessarily find that, then one thing I do when I'm engaging with somebody is I'll check to see their website, check to see the consistency of on their Facebook pages. Are they giving off a vibe that they are who they say they are? I also go pretty deep in Google in finding out their past jobs, LinkedIn, what they've done before, and then potentially sort of reach out to people like that to sort of see what their engagement's been like. But for us at the agency, we heavily rely on Google and also our HubSpot partner page as well. That's another thing that we can't alter or change. But we sort of pride ourselves to make sure that we do a really good job, and these pages here are reflective of that. But ultimately, I think it comes down to what your gut's saying. Like, if you're talking to this person, is your gut sort of saying, this is the person that can do this job for me ultimately? And if the gut's kind of a little bit funny, I think that potentially looking at a sort of a different person opportunity or something.
It is a challenge. And I think it's your point that you made about searching and looking for things can be relevant for lots of different areas. I met with a guy from LinkedIn last night, a guy over in the UK, and he was talking about an outreach program that he uses for direct messaging. And he just said how lazy people are, when people send through a connection request without any information or anything like that. And I mean, just going that extra step and finding a little bit of information about someone and saying, hey, Trav, I saw that you went to Nepal. I've always wanted to do that. You know what I mean? Like, how was that for you? Like, just your goal of a message is to get a response, not to sell. And you mentioned that before is that removing of the selling element and just focusing on that human interaction. And it doesn't always work. Like, I mean, in terms of, you don't always get a response, but you're much more likely to get that than, hey, have you seen my top 29 tips for getting insurance? I just knew it was for you. I just knew it was for you, Trav. You look like a man of the people.
I think on that as well, I think that like one thing I know, because there's a lot, actually in both of our spaces, there's probably a lot of people that are sharks and like they'll take your money and sort of run away. I think you communicate this a lot, but one thing that I know from my experiences is that I am completely doing what I'm selling or helping people to do. Everything that we try and convince people to do, we do for ourselves. We try it, we test it, we make sure that, you know, we learn from it. We're not going to say, hey, go do this, this, and this, and we're not actually doing it ourselves. So every single little part that we are actually going ahead and recommending, we do it ourselves. And I think we've sort of, you know, some of the stuff that we do, we can sort of help those other people or help our clients do it from our known knowledge and sort of give them a bit of a boost up saying, well, based on this, actually don't do that because we've tried it. We've spent a lot of money on it. Make sure that you go do this and this. So even with some of the stuff that we've done for you as well.
Yeah. And it is, yeah. I think there's no exact science. I mean, I think there's a part that's testing and part that's art, and part of it's guesswork too. Am I right? Like particularly with some of the ad work that you guys do, like I think that those things where they promise you these sort of different outcomes and that sort of, it's difficult. It takes time. And I know I've been in the past, you know, we've tried the advertising route. We spent money on Facebook ads and Google AdWords and these sorts of things. And it can be super frustrating because I think it's the expectations not meeting at the right point. How do you deal with that? Because I'd imagine that'd be something that'd be pretty common in what you do. It's like, oh, we're spending all this money, Trav, and we wanted this to come out. And to your experience part.
Yeah, it's probably the most frustrating part of the job that we've got is, you know, we heavily push people to use SEO to try and organically bring people, because we know that the people that come from that are going to convert a lot higher. Their intent's right there. But when it comes down to paid, so whether we're sort of doing Google ads, we're doing remarketing, Facebook, Instagram, you know, any of that sort of stuff, there is a level of, especially when people come to me initially, I need to work out, I think that the moral part is that I need to work out whether, one, I think that I can sell that product. Because, I mean, you could have someone that comes here and sort of sells USB cords and has a goal about, you know, wanting to sort of sell $500,000 this year. Morally, I think that the person needs to take a stance and say, look, it's going to blow up. They're not going to sell $500,000 worth of this with, you know, 30 grand budget. I think that's the first part, but also setting realistic expectations from the get-go. So, you know what? I always say when we first start, the first month is solely a learning phase. We're learning to see what works, who clicks, what specific experiments work. Then we'll start to hit the rubber to the road sort of month 2 and month 3, because that's what we would do and what we've done in the past. We need to experiment to see what does work and doesn't work. People with expectations that it should just go start spending money and then all of a sudden start getting leads or sales, I'd kind of just a bit hesitant to either talk to them or work with them, because it's just not how the world works at all.
And I think I spoke with Chris Bates last week about the property space, and it's really interesting hearing you say some of that stuff, because your comment about having someone come to you with all these cables and I think I'm going to do this with this budget and that sort of thing. And it's kind of the same point that he was making about, whilst your widget is, you know, designing systems and making it functional and understanding and providing ads guidance and facilitating all that stuff, it really is helping people to understand what that end product is. And for Chris, it was not letting them get into a bad property or a bad investment and those sorts of things, but yours goes further than just the widget as well. And it's probably why I like these conversations so much, because you find that there's so many things in common when people are running really good businesses. And it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. But mate,
well, I think we're humans after all. And I think humans, we just like, you name one thing that you just like started doing and nailed it first go in business, in life, in anything really. Like and for us is that we just need to be the guardians, if you will, to expedite the technology side of things, but also expedite what we've learnt in the space with, some best practices, and then, help you fast track that first little bit and then start to play around and test and measure so that we can try and sort of obviously, but then ultimately at the end of the day, there's so many other factors that come into it. Pricing, like I can't control the price of their product. I can't control how much they spend, ultimately there's things outside our control that we need to morally take a stand on before we start engaging with anybody, because then it's just going to end up bad reviews and just unhappy people, which is what we don't want.
And what about some of the other things? I know you did an e-commerce launch site to help some of your friends as well, particularly during COVID, where they were looking at pivoting a bit. I know you're probably out and free as a bird now, mate. You got a beautifully well-groomed head. Like, we can't get a haircut, can't go anywhere. Your beard's Beautiful. Not so great, but it's...
I don't have a jaw like you, so I've got to hide.
I just took this off today, mate. I got to chisel it out. It takes the attention off the head. But mate, just some of the stuff that you've done in that space too, because I really appreciated some of the work, and it's always come, what I've seen of you has come from a place of helping those close to you or helping yourself, and then rolling that out to other people. What are some of those things that you worked on during that time?
Well, I think at first the idea, so I sort of backtrack a bit. I sort of did a webinar on sort of how to set up an e-commerce store in one day. It sort of originated because that same cousin that I was at the altar, his wife at the time was running a beauty salon, and she just literally had to close up shop. So she was at home, and me and my cuz, we kind of started having a beer, and then we sort of spoke about it. And I was like, look, I'll just literally just put some headphones on and set up a store for her. It's going to like literally take no less than a day to set up. So we basically got together. I set up the Shopify store for her. She loaded in all of the products. Literally within a day, she was up and running, and she was making like $5-6 grand a week. That was just like from nothing to $6 grand a week, and that was fairly fulfilling. A mate of mine owns a wine distribution company, so I was all about that. So as soon as he came to me, I was like, mate, I'll help you for sure. He threw me a box of wine, and I just basically on the weekend just sat down, put a site together for him. And he was able to sort of sell wine to his customers and sort of, I guess, his kind of friends and things like that, because he had a platform that could do that. And I know that sort of started bringing in quite a lot of money for him too. So, and I guess that's kind of why we do the webinars. The webinars aren't here to sell. It's here to sort of try and help everybody. And again, we sort of go back to that. We don't sell, we just try and help, and what goes around comes around. So it should all work out in the end, I guess.
Yeah. And it's sometimes hard playing that patience game, isn't it? You and I have been doing this for a while, and we've spoken about it before. There's times where it just feels really like, you get those days where it's just one kick after the next, but you just have to sort of dust yourself up and do it again. And I know you got the team up there, mate, and that must be difficult too. Like, it's one thing when you did it all yourself. And I remember you shared with me a story. I don't know which business you were trying to do, but what was the one that led you up in hospital after you hadn't eaten for 2 weeks? And
that was my other agency that I had. So we were, so we had an office in Papua New Guinea and also in Australia. And, I didn't do so well at school. I think I got an OP24. I don't know what the equivalent is in Melbourne for that, but it's like,
I thought that's a lipstick.
Yeah.
Or a nail polish.
Well, 25 is the worst. So I got, I probably didn't do so well at school. So I, jumping into a business in the early stages, I kind of was like learning a lot of the stuff that I guess people learn at school. And there was just a lot going on. And I guess through the business journey that you have, you kind of, I was sort of doing 16, 17-hour days, sleeping for a couple of hours, going back to it and, not eating. And if I was eating, I'd probably just get like a pizza or something. And I did that pretty consistently for maybe about two and a half years. It was stressful because you're trying to juggle like cash flow. You were trying to juggle, sales, proposal pitches, staff, paying staff, paying contractors, juggling tax, ATO, superannuation. It was really quite overwhelming. I think I ended up in hospital for 2 weeks just because I forgot to eat, sorry. And my sister came in and sort of said, "Hey, what have you been doing the last couple of weeks?" And I was like, "I've just been really busy at work." And she's a nurse and she's like, "Can you just come to the hospital with me quickly?" And yeah, they sort of said I was malnourished. I was dehydrated. That was all this kind of stuff. I was like, holy crap. So I fattened up a little bit in hospital. But I think the biggest thing I learned was that I think you can build a lot of stuff up in your head when it comes to like, putting a lot of pressure on yourself to perform, get things done. And I think if I had my time again, I would slow down to speed up. A good man by the name of Matt Maloof told me that you had to sort of slow down and stop and think rather than sort of always trying to do things. And, because you're quite hectic with your decision making if you don't have some time to yourself to sort of like stop. And I guess that's kind of how I got into cycling anyway. It just gave me that opportunity you can't do anything. You're on a bike. So you have to just got you in your head. So you just need to sort of slow down to I guess, speed up. So, but that was a pretty cool story.
Well, it was, mate. I did laugh because I think I don't know, a lot of the people that I talk to have been in similar spots, and it's, when you just think you're crazy and you're the only one, and you're like, why am I doing that? And then people think it's really odd that you might go days without showering, or like it's really quite odd. I then had to build in things that would make me do certain things, like made myself go to the office on a certain day because it forced me to put clothes on. Or it seems crazy in hindsight, but at the time it felt so normal.
It's what I think Steve Jobs said something like, people who start businesses are like legitimately crazy, like legitimately there's something wrong with them, because anyone that wants to sort of go through that amount of pain and crap for such a long period of time isn't normal. And I think, if you kind of look back, it's like, it was a little bit like crazy. I don't know, you just go get a normal job and you probably wouldn't have gone to hospital and your relationships would have been a lot better. I don't know, like it's, you get kind of addicted to it. I don't know what it is. You kind of get crazy addicted to it, and you kind of want to perfect it. And it's Rubik's Cube that you can never solve,
I think it kind of brings me to another. I'll come back to the cycling because I know you've been smacking it out early mornings on your rides. But before we jump, I was talking to Dom during the week from your team, and he opened up his Notion board, and I'm like, ooh, Notion. And I'm like, yes, because for me, one of the things that really helped bring me together was having a personalized, organized place that I could store everything and get everything out of my head and into one place. Is that how you've used Notion for yourself and kept yourself under a bit of control with all the aspects of your life?
I'll be completely honest with you. Just because I know it's just you and me.
Just you and I, mate, and my mum.
Yeah, and your mum.
Hi, Susie.
And maybe somebody in the office here as well. I've always, like, I know that the way that I work is I write things on paper. I think that if I can think about it and write it on paper, I know it's there. But I know not everybody's kind of like that. But we have started to use a piece of software called Notion. And Notion essentially is just a notepad that you can, organize your day, organize your client stuff, organize your activities, internal processes and things like that, where we use, and it's kind of more so about communicating to more than one person. So this sort of software allows to do that. I think the past me was I wouldn't say I'm super organized now at all in any capacity, but I'm a lot more organized than I used to be. It was pretty loose back in the day. I mean, I guess this business has forced me to be a little bit more organized as well. But Notion is one of those. things
Well,
that help me organize it.
mate, I've absolutely gone all in on note. I found it from, I don't know if you've seen the YouTuber Ali Abdaal. Have you seen him at all?
I think
Did I tell you about it before?
no.
Oh, he's a UK doctor. So he was a trainee doctor at uni student at Cambridge, went through, became a grad doctor, but he's also got an amazing YouTube channel and just cracked the 1 million subscriber mark. So he's a little bit bigger than me. Let's put it that way. Yeah, just a little. But mate, he's the way he gets so much stuff out. I think he runs like 4 businesses, has a podcast, YouTube channel, was a full-time doctor. He's done 1 billion Skillshare courses that he's created. And then he started showing the Notion practice that he went through. And I've gone down this rabbit hole. Like there's a guy called August Bradley. I don't know if you've seen any of his stuff, but he's like, I don't know how to describe him, but he's like OG tech wizard computer brain nerd that's like designed all of his Notion templates and stuff. And for me, it's just given me that flexibility to get it out of my head, get it somewhere that I can then organize it. I literally use it for the routines in the morning. I use it for any tasks that are non-client related. I use it for the content calendar. Everything that we've got going on is in there. And mate, I eat the same takeaway every Friday night. Like I'm a creature of habit. Like I legitimately go to the same restaurant. I absolutely love it. And the only place I wasn't doing it was in this personalized organization. It was making me feel really out of control. So when I saw that you guys were using it too, I just had a little bit of
good. It's good because obviously it's like super basic but super powerful in the same respect. So I know Hannah here, she's kind of like working on creating a central dashboard for all of our processes, our onboarding processes, the documents. I know Olivia's kind of done all of our best practices and checklists. So we know that if anybody needs to go ahead and do videos, this is the checklist, this is where it is. But I think the good thing about it is that you can pull widgets in and embedded stuff as well, and kind of have like a centralized dashboard where you've got like a calendar and the weather and, today's to-dos and things like that. I don't think we're that skilled just yet, but I've seen some examples. I'm like, holy dooly, I didn't even know you could do this. But more importantly, you can kind of share like documents as well with people outside Notion as well and sort of get them to review specific documents, much like Google Docs, but it's more of an organized place. I mean, if Google Docs could have this organization side down, it would be perfect. But this one, I think, kind of ticks it. It's like Evernote. If anyone's ever used Evernote, so it's better than Evernote. We've also got an Evernote port button. You just click one button, it ports everything from Evernote to Notion. So yeah.
It's crazy. And I think I've started using it. I know it sounds really nerdy. I'm probably showing my nerd side now, but I've got like shopping lists, like with each of the different categories. That's just the template. And I just have all the things, I just delete them off and then I can share that if I want to, or I can get the shops and tick it all off. Mate, I've as you can see, I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole, but even just like the guy tracks his sleep. He's got the percentages of things that he's done. He can look at he does the roll-ups, which brings it to the different quarters. So he can sort of see what part of his goals from a personal perspective he's hit, how he's tracking on each of those areas of his life. And it's not just for business and it's not just for collaborating that way. I think it's really helped me probably more so from a personal perspective than it has from business. But mate, it's probably enough of me banging on about Notion. Not even sponsored.
No. Well, we'll get a referral link or something down here.
I don't know.
Quickly sign up to be an affiliate.
Yeah.
It's good. I think the guys find a lot of benefit in it. I know that we've sort of taken a stance this quarter to sort of focus on making sure everything's there. We've got like a server that we put everything onto.
Yeah.
But if you kind of go into your Google Docs at the moment, you've just got this like list or the icons, and it's like, I think in Google Drive you can do folders, but sort of in sort of like in documents, it's a little bit harder and always go into Drive. So this just gives us that ability to find things a lot quicker and document things. It's pretty cool. And they always bring out like releases every week, like pretty big releases every single week. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's cheap. I think it's like $9.
It's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it's
that's for the open one, which is, it's unreal. But mate, you mentioned the cycling. I know you've been smacking out plenty of Ks in the mornings. Is that the new routine that you were saying?
Well, so I've been doing it. It's no jiu-jitsu. It's not as hectic as jiu-jitsu, but
mate, I'm non-contact jiu-jitsu at the moment. I haven't trained since March. I'm 28,000 kilos heavier.
You got to do it on Zoom. You do training on Zoom and go
Yeah.
do it that way. I know when COVID, we at Neighbourhood, we kind of went back to and worked from home. So we sort of took everything and worked from home. And I ordered this. It's called a Wahoo Smart Trainer, where you can just put your bike onto the smart trainer and sort of just put it on the TV, and then you can sort of ride virtually with people around the world and whatnot. Super addictive, really, really addictive. So, I mean, people always say, well, why don't you just take your bike outside? It's going to be a whole lot better. But I mean, the other night I got home at 7:00 and I jumped on it. I did my training, and I was able to do it at night, and I sort of get up at about 4:30 in the morning, jump on there, do my training. So there's a really set sort of workout schedule that I've got. And kind of like I said before, it's just a really good opportunity to, I don't know, getting a bit deep, but sort of just, you can't fidget with anything. It's kind of got yourself and the bike, and that's sort of it. And you're sort of forced to almost, work it out or do whatever you need to do in your head. But it's, I think it's been great for sort of getting your mind clear before coming to works, especially when you've got 7 meetings and freaking 1,000 emails and a whole bunch of different stuff kind of going on. So yeah.
And what about other ISO purchases, mate? I know you're through the other side, being Brisbane based, but I know you'd have a couple of little chestnuts that you've gone and you've dabbled up. Yeah.
Andrew's probably watching this. I'll probably
No, mate, don't worry. There's no one watching. So
there's no one watching. Yeah, there's zero people. It's not recorded at all. No. I think I'll be honest with you. During COVID, I got really hardcore in the backyard. It's probably not that sexy, to be honest with you. I got really hectic on my grass, my garden. I did irrigation. I kind of systemized the irrigation system for it to go off at specific times with these like little controllers and things like that. It's not. And I got solar too, but it's not sexy. There's nothing really worth talking about.
Mate, I was pretty excited because I didn't you say your old man came round and like you've bunged together this whole irrigation system and he's pretty handy with that stuff, and he's like, how the hell did you even come up with all this stuff? And you're like, YouTube. YouTube. So yeah, I just kind of jumped on. We got really low pressure because we're sort of on top of a mountain, so the pressure's really low. Mate. So must be bloody tough at the top, perched on the high hill, able to go outside. You ride your bike in your 7th gym. It must be bloody tough at the top of Trav.
And I ride my bike inside as well, not outside.
Mate, it must be. You don't want to dirty the wheels.
No. I get that from men all the time.
So what's Neighbourhood? You did the big rebrand, and one of the things you told me early on was that, I mean, it was the Raiders before, right? And then you switched to Neighbourhood. But when you did the rebrand, it wasn't something, even though you had the skills to do it yourself, you found it difficult to step away far enough to be able to, I guess, do your own work, and you engage someone to help you with that. I guess if you were to think about that in other scenes, what was that drove you to realise that, hey, even though we've got the skills to do this, we need to look elsewhere?
I sort of wanted to do a bit of a rebrand for such a long period of time. You look at your competitors and you look at every single other person that you're either competing with in this space, but also a true reflection of, who you are. I mean, the good thing about a business is you can kind of create whatever identity you want to create, but it's obviously I wanted to create something that was a reflection of what I wanted to sort of give by, be real, be honest, be true, and just do some good work. And, we have got the skills to do it ourselves in here, and we tried 6 times, and that's the worst thing about it is that because we had full control of the project, like if you follow your same process that you sort of tell your clients, but then at any moment, because you've got full control, you can sort of go, actually, I didn't like that. I'll just go and change this and completely change that process. Then all of a sudden the project will fall apart. And then you've gone and invested a whole bunch of time and money into this project because it's so easy not to follow a process if you do it, do it for yourself. And more so when I'm at the realm, like at the helm as well, because I don't like that, or I've come up with 4 new ideas that I could sort of go and make that a little bit better. So we've tried that 6 times. And then I think I kind of made the call that I was like, I'm self-sabotaging this, and I can't do this to the team or the business because it's like, I need to have some sort of structure to get to where we want to go. And I think emotionally, you overthink things too much as well because, you've started it from scratch and you've built it up to where it is today. You over engineer and come up with ideas and emotionally attach to it. So there's some guys next door, Mark and Dave, absolute legends. Have a beer with them. We're very lucky to be their neighbours. No pun intended there. And sort of just kind of what they do as well. And I sort of said, I know that we can do this, but we kind of need a hand and it was the best they ever did, like they pulled us up. They pulled me up specifically. They said, no, you can't do that. And, this is what you said that you wanted. This is what you're going to get. And they kind of added a bit more rigor to that process where, I physically was paying as well. So you kind of have to be quite mindful and just be a bit more strict with that process and take it a little bit more seriously. And stoked to the guys, shout out to the guys at Ply. I'm so happy to where we are. It's a true reflection of what we do, build neighborhoods and online communities, but true reflection of, I think, of who we are as people, just human, real people that, I don't want to say take ourselves too seriously, but just sort of, we are just normal people and we try to reflect that in our marketing. So yeah, I was stoked, obviously handing over the check or transferring the money, to do that is like a big leap of faith because you're kind of like, oh man, it's a lot of money, but I'm so stoked I did it and like really happy that I had professionals help me out in that area. And it's just, I've never looked back. I'm just, almost like really proud to wear this side, proud to like wear the brand now as well, where before it was like, oh, you're a little bit embarrassed because you're just not super proud of it, but now we are. So yeah, pretty stoked on it.
I think that was something you said to me really early on. It was one of the things that I said to you about my stuff. Like I'd built my own website and look, it was okay. But it wasn't really reflective of that. And I was a bit embarrassed to talk about it. And I didn't really want people going there because it wasn't quite what I wanted it to do. And I think you said you felt the same way about it. And almost when the stuff that you guys have helped me with, it's got to this point now, I kind of have to live up to that, if that makes sense. So I'm dragged up in everything that I do. These sort of things, I could very easily just slap my phone around and not do anything when it comes to this. But it's sort of forced me to think about like, what would Dom and what would Trav make me do here? And, make sure that it's at a level that it seems silly because sometimes it gets in the way of actually getting stuff out. But I know exactly what you're talking about when there's that level of pride in what you do.
I think like now that I've gone through that process as well, I think like if the sea of people that are watching at the moment are like
Stop
in that
joking
position,
about it, mate.
yeah, I don't know. There's no like ticker down here that says how many people. It's probably
700,426. So it's really odd. It's one of the biggest ones.
It's fucked. Whenever I sort of go through this process, I almost try and sort of like go and take a walk outside, stop, and then put yourself in like somebody that needs your services situation and look at the website or look at the sales process or look at whatever. And, knowing that you could go to any other provider, like, are you answering my question on what I see? And are you, not only sexy enough from a brand perspective, but also from a content point? And then I sort of go to other competitors and I'm like, all right, if I have to peg myself against all of my competitors, would I get out of those three a call up? And that's kind of just, I guess, how I sort of, that's kind of our sales process. That's with our marketing. That's with everything else. Sort of just try and do that. And then it kind of helps me emotionally take it out and sort of like, I guess, commercially, I guess, look at a perspective on how I would execute something. And it took me a while to get to that point, but that'd be some advice if I could give some advice. Sounds like what you're kind of doing. You're kind of almost pushing yourself to what would somebody else think about this, and you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, no, I do. I think you meant like just stepping back from what you're looking to do yourself and seeing how that would fit in that framework of, would you choose this? How does it compare to the others? And is that something that I'd be proud of? And is that the sort of rule that you go through? And then it's like, we don't do it, we do it if it's like that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think the big part is the content as well. Is it what I'm doing? Does it communicate the goal or the need of that person landing on that page or going through a process, if you will. So it's you almost got to try and act dumb about what your business does and sort of say, okay, this is my first interaction with you guys. What would be your perception? And that's kind of, I think, how, because at the moment now we're sort of going through our sales process and like looking and trying to just pick it apart, going, like the person, they're probably asking a lot of questions. Should we give them a case study, or should we, do a personalized video, or should we just do a generic video saying, hey, welcome, this is, Dom, this is Liv, this is Hannah, this is Geordie, this is everybody. And sort of looking at from the other side of the curtain, being like, how can we make this experience the best it can be, put ourselves in front of the other competitors, but also try and communicate to them that we can help them with their problem. And that's kind of like the lens that we're sort of trying to go through at the moment. We're redoing the site again, but also through our sales process as well.
I thought your inbound video was really good, the recent one, the wrap on that, because it did just what you said. Everybody was involved. It sort of took them through from your opinion, I guess, what had happened at the conference.
Yeah.
And I guess it is it's HubSpot focused, right? So, if you don't support or use HubSpot, that's kind of irrelevant. But it's just one of those things that I thought was a really well done piece, that you chopped it in with multiple people. There was stuff in there there was personality, and you guys have done that really well in your videos, in all of them, haven't you? Like just injected that bit of either blooper reel or something that's there too.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of like, I think you and I, we both either call each other up or email each other, whatever it might be, when it comes to like bettering stuff. Like even this, like, are we aware of what's like, I've got no idea how you're doing this and how you split up. Like, so I'm probably going to chew your ear off, I guess, after this and sort of understand how you've done it. But it's like continually improving, and you can kind of like look at the video. And I think one thing, if I took a step back and looked at it from a different lens, is that we always do educational videos, and we always sort of stand here and go, "Hi, I'm Travis, welcome to the neighborhood. Did you want to learn about digital marketing? Da da da." And then I was like, "Oh, that's going to start, like, that's good for a purpose." But I think now Liv today is going to start doing like how-to videos. So like connect the camera up and like actually walk people through how to physically do things. Because I know that that's something we can talk conceptually about stuff, but I kind of feel that people would be like, yeah, but how do you do that? So doing some of that stuff, and some of the stuff that we kind of want to do too is like, have Dom and I sit here and we can talk about topics and things that we get asked questions a lot about. Just trying to try different things and, learn from each other, see you do this and then I'll try it, and then I do it, then you do it. So it's kind of, that's where the bromance kind of comes together, I think.
It is. And mate, I think it's the fun part about it, because there isn't any set rule. And I think that's exactly what this is to me. Like, I can sit and talk about insurance all day, right? But it's not that interesting. And just because that's my final product doesn't mean that the people that I help don't have interest in other things. And maybe it's not HubSpot, I don't know. But maybe it's something else that we've spoken about today, or particularly last week with Chris with property. Everyone's buying houses. Everyone's looking at that sort of stuff. And I think that it was crazy of me to think that all I could talk about was insurance. And I'd strayed away from it for so long because I was nervous about doing something that was a little bit different. Mate, I don't know about you, but when I first started and I was building a list of names online, every time someone unsubscribed, I literally felt sad.
I had that same method. I had that same idea until I can't remember who told me. And it was a light bulb moment for me that I was like, okay, because when someone unsubscribed, I was just like, oh, what am I doing? But they said to me, and I can't remember who it was, they said, don't think of it like that. Think about it, for every person that's subscribed is now you have a clearer idea about who wants to sort of hear from you and buy from you. So it's not, don't look at it as they've gone. It's that you have a clearer idea on the people that are there haven't unsubscribed. That's a better thing to look at. And that person just simply is not in the market for what you want, what they want right now. And you know what? That's probably not a bad thing, because if they're not interested in it, then why would they listen to it? They're not going to listen to stuff about insurance if they've just got insurance, or they're happy with their insurance, or, that's just not on their radar right now. So you just have more people more of the people that are engaged to market to instead of people that are less engaged. So I was like, oh, that makes sense actually. Yeah,
It,
however
make,
you want to cut it, that makes me feel better.
it makes me smile on the inside a little bit more than Stephen Blogs withdrawing his subscription from my thing when I've spent all
Abuse.
Saturday writing it. I've put out something that's for free. I've spent 7 hours curating it on a Saturday, and you release it into the world, and it's like unsubscribe, unsubscribe, unsubscribe. I'm
Yeah.
like, crumbs.
It's funny. It's funny. The video that we just sent out for the inbound, I think it took us like ages. I think it took Liv ages to write the script and then do the research and then for all us to do it, then edit it, then make edits. And then I just remember when we first sent it out and we sent it out at 6 a.m. I got into work at like 8 o'clock and I looked at it and there was like 5 people that unsubscribed. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you know how much work went into that video? So I was like, no, it's all good. Wussa, it's all good. It's all good.
It reminds me of a funny, when I was working back at an old practice a number of years ago now, we took out a radio ad in like a regional radio because it was what we could afford at the time. And I remember we paid for this radio ad and we're like, oh, we're probably going to need like a couple of temps because we're going to be that swamped with inquiries. Like we thought like this is going to change our life. So we all got in there, like the first ad went out at like 7:45 and we're just sitting there like just waiting for the phone to ring. I think it cost us 10 grand for the ad and we didn't get one phone call. not one. To the point where I actually thought for a second we must have given the wrong number. But no,
wow.
it was just that ad was rubbish.
I'm more incentive to do digital advertising. I think.
Oh, mate, I think you can test and you can, I guess, play around with it a little bit more and that sort of thing too. But mate, I'd imagine that you would have watched a fair bit of TV like me in the last few months. But would you have seen Social Dilemma and taken that in and thoughts on where we're heading with all that? Because I mean, I believe that advertising is a necessary evil in that sense, but it does worry you when you see these really smart guys that are having their kids not use social stuff as well.
I haven't seen that. I was going to watch it 2 nights ago on Netflix, but I get the gist of it. It's kind of like, I guess, it's all promoted for you to sort of like, it's built for you to sort of get attracted to it and spend more time on it and obviously disconnect from what really is happening in the real world. It's funny, it's on 2 sides. Like as a marketer, I think that having those insights and having those people there and being able to track certain metrics, there's one side of the coin that tells me, well, that means that I can try and help people deliver a service that they need or want. But it's also the side of the coin that you don't see is like, what other stuff are they doing with that data? I know from a marketer, it's beneficial for me because if a client comes to me, I can hyper target to somebody that really needs their product. But there's like a lot of talk out there, I guess, around misuse of this sort of data and what they're doing with it specifically and changing the algorithms and how they have the platform to push or promote specific, negative or what is it called? Trolls to,
Yeah.
I think there's something I watched on it is that the more trolls that are there, the more time they spend on it. And I don't know. It sort of promotes hate. I haven't watched it. I'll watch it. I'm not going to comment, but I'll watch it.
Well, you come back to me when you've watched it. Yeah.
What's your view on it? That's a good question.
Well, I think it's one of those things that you just it's good to see it from the other side, right? I think it's all too easy. I did a video, I think it was on the My Health record stuff a number of years ago, and it showed, I was talking about what you should be doing. So you were instantly subscribed to the My Health stuff where they released all your data. You had to opt out if you didn't want to be. And my suggestion was that everybody should opt out until they've read the terms and conditions. And I made that post, and it was probably one of the ones that sparked emotion the most. I had one person wrote me a message. It was my best mate's brother. He messaged me and he said, Biggs, like, if I don't do that, my kid would have died. They've got epilepsy. The record's being passed across. And I'm like, mate, 100%. Like, of course, like if there's a reason for doing it, there's a reason for doing it. And I think it's a fantastic idea, but there was the same thing over in the UK. They'd done a really similar thing, and they'd ended up selling all the records to private health insurance companies. And then so it was a big mess. So essentially what I was saying, the number of terms and conditions that were in the My Health record stuff was 10 times that of signing up for a bank account. Now, the stats were that I think it was like 80% of people don't read terms and conditions. So just not opting out by the sake of laziness, to me, was scary. So I think what the social dilemma did for me was just give you some context as to what the purpose of some of these things are. I believe that marketing is great, and I said this with Chris last week, is when it gets you into the place that you should be. So whatever you did to get me to your page, we get the results that we did, and we got this friendship, and like that's a massive win, mate. And I don't care how much of my data you use to get in front of me. I really don't. But do you know what I mean? Like if I got to the point where it was like into the place where you shouldn't be talking to someone, it takes you down this path and it's a bad experience. But it's really difficult because unless they're influencing elections, like me choosing to go and work with you is my decision at the end of the day too. Or me choosing to buy a USB cable is my decision at the end of the day as well, you know?
Well, I think we're talking, I think we're talking where our intentions and our moral code here is on the right path. And I guess one thing to note is that not everybody has the same morals or intentions as well. But then I guess you kind of go back to the people running the platforms too. There's probably NDAs out the wazoo that sort of can't talk about it outside of, the platforms that we might be on right now, whichever one.
All of them, mate.
Yeah, all of them. But it's kind of like, I think that it goes to say, I haven't seen the documentary, but it goes to say that there would be some sort of, moral standpoint on that they're probably crossing somewhat in order to achieve. I mean, the amount of money that these guys are making is ridiculous.
And I think they're also talking about it because there is actually no product when it comes to Facebook, that the customers become the product. And that's sort of the argument in that sense. And look, I mean, it's an interesting watch. And I think if it changes your behaviors, I mentioned a book. I don't know if you've read it, Cal Newport's Digital Minimalism. Almost fell over in my chair. But the Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport, really along the same lines of just, he's a bit extreme with it and suggests that you have a complete detox of all of your socials and then reintroduce the ones that you want to be using, but making sure that you use them for, is it the best use of your time? So I use it as an excuse sometimes. I find myself in the scroll hole and I'm just scrolling through and I'm like, I use Facebook for business. And it's really like, last night I was watching, Carly came over, she's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I was watching a guy who was inside of a mattress cover pretending to be a mattress. What am I doing? It's for business.
Why are we watching this?
It was for business.
Dom's actually got me into Reddit, and I think that I've kind of slowly just dripped off both Instagram and Facebook and just sort of started to go down the Reddit and it's actually, I mean, it's uncensored in some degree. There's obviously a dark side of Reddit and whatnot, but it's I've definitely started to get into Reddit a lot more than I have I think I'm probably peeling off Facebook and Instagram significantly. I don't think I've done a post since February or something. So I've been enjoying Reddit quite a lot. Sometimes it's a bit more substantial.
The new nerd hole. It's where the cool kids are.
Come in, the water is fine.
Mate, I'll be in. You know that I'll be in. I'll pick your brain on that and you can pick my brain on those videos. But mate, I guess before I ask you sort of some things before wrapping up, I just wanted to say a massive thank you from me. I know that this has been something that's I really will continue to be grateful for forever. And to you and to Dom and the rest of the team, it's just been really, really amazing to do that. It's not so much the work that we've done, which is amazing, but it's more just the way that, mate, every time I've spoken to you, it's like, hey, have you tried this? Or here, we've got a subscription for personal that you can use and your data box stuff is here. And I know that I'm not the only one. You know what I mean? Like, I feel flattered. You tell that to all the boys. But I do feel that you would do that same sort of thing to everybody. And you're very generous with your time. I think you caught up with Danielle from the FPA and shared all of this stuff. So if anyone is watching, I don't mean to throw you under the bus, but I'm sure you'd be open to help because it is what you do really well. But just in terms of that sort of stuff, mate, thank you, I guess, from me, because it's been pretty cool.
It's good to sort of hang out with somebody that's kind of progressive when it comes to, like, I sort of said it's just sort of a bit of a Rubik's cube. You never, well, it's kind of a bit tough, and it's a lot bigger, and it's complex in nature, and it's interesting, especially in our realm. And I think you're also learning is that just trying new things and developing it. Like, we haven't got the silver bullet, but slowly through time, you'll figure out, okay, video is going to really work here, or email marketing is going to work. And it's good because I'm on AppSumo, and whenever a new AppSumo thing comes, I send it to you, and I'm like, oh, hey, jump on this, try it out. It might work, it might not work, but in most cases, it really does work, and it does help. And it's good to work with somebody that's kind of like passionate about innovation and wanting to sort of push a little bit forward and try new things, and better themselves and their business at the same time by learning. And I think it comes down to just learning, and it's just being able to work with you, I guess, kind of, you're up for learning and trying new things. That's kind of what we have to do to stay innovative. And it's kind of good to someone have just as excited about something as we would be when we sort of find new things and new technologies and new ways of doing things. So it's kind of good. So if only you could come across and come up to Queensland, it'd be a lot better.
Mate, I tell you, well, I'm hanging for Sunday. I think they're going to say we can go 5Ks away from our house. So by then, I reckon by 2023, I might be able to come to Queensland and get rid of my pastiness. I said last week I'm going translucent. I'm like an axolotl at the moment.
I don't need to rub it in, but I have been going down the Gold Coast every weekend, sort of just sleeping on the beach. So we'd love to have you up here.
Oh yeah, mate. I'm sure.
I'll take a photo next time, and I'll send it through to you.
Just send a cardboard cutout of me. Well, mate, is there anything before we wrap up in terms of I'll pop your website stuff and that sort of thing in there too. But anything that you want to let people know about beforehand?
No, not really. I think that COVID. I'll just randomly go on a tangent here. I think COVID has been good and bad to most industries. I think it's actually significantly a lot better than what people are making out, and that's highly dependent on different industries, mind you. But I've definitely seen through the government assisting businesses with JobKeeper and other sort of areas. It's really been refreshing, and it's been really fulfilling to see a lot of those businesses using that money for the right thing and looking into bettering their marketing, bettering their sales, bettering their product, bettering their businesses overall, using that money to do it. It's stimulated the economy, and it's been like a weird kind of like couple of months where we've seen an increase in inquiries, an increase in new clients, and an increase in, I guess, a little bit of pressure when it comes to our own business and fulfilling and having the resource to do that. But it's I think ultimately we've really sort of laid back to and always go back to being human and always trying to help people, whether they're customers or whether they're not customers or not. But I think COVID for some businesses has been like really good. And if anything, if it's been bad, it's almost put the pressure on people to stop and look at how they're doing things, how they're marketing, how they're selling, or how they're being representative from the public eye. And if anything, that's probably a positive spin on it, because I guess, people are, even for our free tools on our site, people are downloading a whole lot more. People are coming to our blog and trying to educate themselves and learn a lot more. So I think it's been a weird vibe. I haven't seen you ever. I've never met you. I've had heaps of conversations with you, but it's been
not real.
Yeah. Imagine if you were really short. That'd be kind of weird.
Yeah. But I just have a good Zoom.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of good. I hope that people are caring more about their products, caring more about their businesses, and not sort of settling with the status quo. And it's been awesome to talk to different people, and whether I help them out just for a quick call or whether we become clients and stuff. It's been really cool. It's good to learn about different people's businesses and how they do stuff. And it's really fulfilling, especially in your case, when they actually take your advice and they do it. And you're like, it's grown up so fast. Promise myself I wouldn't cry.
Mate, it's. I think that the challenge with COVID. I mean, there's obviously some industries that have just been absolutely obliterated. Like at least for the time being, particularly here where your pubs and restaurants. But I saw that. I was speaking to someone the other day. They'd mentioned they'd opened up Providore. I'm not sure if it's something that's up there in Brisbane, but essentially all these restaurants opened up. They're delivering make at home meals, so they've innovated to do that, and they were on the brink of going bankrupt, all these places, and it's super tough from that. But it takes a big person, like you said, to be in business and be that little bit crazy to go, okay, well, this is pretty much stacked against me at the moment. I'm going to look for some way out of this, because it's pretty, I don't know about you, but there's times where you just sort of sit there and go, don't know if I'm up for this fight anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm up for it.
Do you know, funny story, a friend of mine, Ryan, he runs a company in Melbourne called Coffee on Q. He is one of the people that I think that have truly gone and just said, you know what, I'm not going to let this defeat me. He runs a catering coffee business. No one's doing events. He's pivoted. He's doing online courses on how to make coffee at home. Bought his online store, and he's making more sales online than ever before. He's kind of taken it by the horns. He's tried to jump on podcasts and webinars with like HubSpot and a whole bunch of different companies. I think that it's a good opportunity to, it's pushing people to be innovative, and people like Ryan have sort of done that as well. So it's a weirdly cool time. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but here we are.
I hear you. I think it's it kind of makes you think when you're in a fortunate position that maybe you haven't been forced to that. How do we take that same mentality without having to get to that point ourselves? And that's sort of the thing that I've been thinking about. Like, quite fortunately, from a business perspective, insurance is one of the things that people think more about right now. And I'm sure that marketing, if you've got the budget to spend on it, is another one of those things that it's good to have eyeballs. But there's certainly that same thought that's going through my head of I'm sitting back and I'm going, okay, well, if it was one of the things that got instantly changed, would I be as resilient as Ryan, for example? And how would I pivot? And what can I do now that would take me to that point? And I think that's sort of what I start to think about a lot. And previously I was a bit like, same as you, running around, a million things on the plate. And it's nice now to have the team and the things that have been delivered that you guys have helped me do that are consistent, so that I know that I can do my job, but also have the time to think. So I think it's really interesting.
Go to jiu-jitsu on Zoom. You can do more of that.
Mate, I wish. It's literally been since March.
Karate in your bedroom.
It's literally been. I'm very close. I didn't rattle off all my ISO purchases, which would have been equally as boring. But I'm very close to buying padded mats so I can solo train at home. Because I don't know when we'll be able to get back, mate. I really don't think we'll be training again until next year.
Your dojo. I think my camera's just gone out. Hang on a second.
It has.
Yeah.
Anyway,
here we go. There we go. We're here. Hang on. There we go. We're back.
That's all right, mate. I'll pad it through. I'll carry us. I'll carry the team.
Yeah. We're live.
So
live on TV.
I'll just have to adjust you down, because now you're the size of a huge human. But mate, thank you. I appreciate everything, and also today it's been good, mate. And I'm sure we'll call each other straight afterwards and be like, hey, how'd you do that? And what are you doing there? And equally as giddy. But thank you, mate. I appreciate it.
We'll do it in the afternoon next time, and so we can have a beer and sit down and just
for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time ever.
I've been absolutely smacking the Colonials like they're going out of fashion. I think I don't know why you could have put me onto something cheaper.
So good. It's the best beer in the whole. Like, I love those guys, Colonial beers. It's the best.
What's the go with the wide mouths? Were they a limited run? Because I want the full ring pull. They've all gone back to the smaller mouth.
Yeah, I'm not too sure why. The intention for those that aren't drinking Colonials, that you can pull the whole top, and the whole top of the beer comes off. It's meant so that you can smell the beer as you drink it. But I got a mixed box the other day. It was weird. Some of them had it and some of them didn't. So
in the same carton.
In the same carton, yeah. So we might tag. I might, if this goes on the LinkedIn, I'll tag whoever's working there, and then we'll get an answer.
Perfect. Well, I'd love to know, mate. We're solving the big issues. I'll tell you what. We are.
Hopefully they send us a free box, just for the shout out.
Only if they're wide mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, mate. Well, awesome. Appreciate it again, buddy. And
thanks for having me, mate. All right.
Thanks,
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.